The last few centuries have witnessed the West rise and establish its dominance on the world stage. From the Industrial Revolution to the Age of Enlightenment and scientific advancements, the Western countries have led the way, shaping the course of history. But today, we find ourselves at a turning point. The world is confronted with a new reality, a reality where the West, once celebrated for its economic progress and prosperity, is experiencing a noticeable slowdown. This could not just be a minor blip, but the start of a new world order. After the Second World War, the world witnessed the rise of two superpowers, the United States and the Soviet Union. During this phase, former colonies of the West embarked on their journey as independent nations. However, power remained concentrated in the Western countries, who engaged in a global struggle for dominance, particularly with the Soviet Union. After the collapse of the USSR, the Western world order once again emerged triumphant. The United States took center stage, and the dollar became the dominant currency. Western institutions asserted their authority, and the world witnessed a tech revolution spearheaded by renowned American companies. To gain a clearer perspective, let's examine the changing economic landscape. In 1820, Asia accounted for 57% of the global economy, while Europe and US combined trailed behind at 35%. However, by 1990, Asia's share had dwindled to 21%. This shift in economic power meant that the world followed the lead of the West. Western countries held economic dominance, enabling them to impose sanctions at will. The problems faced by the West turned into global challenges. The 2008 financial crisis serves as a prime example of this phenomenon. Subpar lending practices in the United States triggered a global economic crisis, adversely affecting emerging economies like India. However, this crisis presented an opportunity for Asian countries to narrow the gap with the West. From a mere 21% in 2008, Asia's share of the global economy rose to 33% by 2020. A significant factor in Asia's rise can be attributed to China. In the 1990s, manufacturing shifted from the West to China, enticed by its promise of first-world infrastructure at third-world prices. Thus began China's remarkable journey as the factory of the world. From just $55 billion in 1991, the dragon economy's exports soared to a staggering $3.71 trillion in 2022. Surpassing both the United States and Europe, Asia emerged as the focal point of growth in the new decade. While Western economies battle with high inflation and sluggish growth rates, economies like India and China lead the way in Asia. Yet, the centerpiece of the West's dominance lies in its control over currency and trade. The actions taken by Western countries following the Russian forces' attack on Ukraine may have triggered a series of events that could potentially undermine this dominance. The concept of weaponizing trade gained prominence in 2022 when Russia launched an attack on Kyiv. In response, the Western Bloc severed Russia's ties to global economic networks and imposed harsh sanctions. While this action was applauded by many within the bloc, countries outside of it began to ponder the consequences if they were to face similar sanctions. Over the past 2 years, several nations have chosen not to join calls for a complete boycott of Russian oil. India, for instance, has imported substantial amounts of oil at discounted prices to meet its growing energy needs. Calls for de-dollarization have also gained momentum. Countries like India and the UAE have signed agreements to settle trade in their respective local currencies. Additionally, the expansion of BRICS has led to discussions for the introduction of a new currency. These developments come at a challenging time for Western economies. Projections by the IMF indicate further slowdown in Western economies in the coming year. By the end of this decade, Asia could potentially account for 57% of the global GDP. The new global hubs are emerging in Asia, with Dubai leading the way. Studies show that Dubai is becoming the sought-after destination, surpassing New York and London. The Global South is also finding its voice. India is positioning itself as a leader of the global south, embracing the concept of Vishwamitra. During the recent Israel-Gaza conflict, a divide emerged between calls for a ceasefire from the global south and the Western support for Israel's operations. The hasty withdrawal from Afghanistan and the divided response to the Ukraine crisis have weakened the West's position. Economically, these countries face challenges domestically, while externally, they confront an increasingly hostile world. So, will this mark the end of Western dominance? Like, subscribe and click the bell icon for more such insightful videos.